Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Irvin, also known as Kubuman. Welcome to another help desk training video. We have a couple of tickets we're going to work, but before we do that, please take 1 second out of your time to click the like button. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. The first one we're going to actually work is this one here where it says my printer is not working. Typically you want to work tickets that are in order. For example, this one says ISD 34 and this one says ISD 35. But the reason I'm going to work the ISD 35 first is because it's in relation to suggestion or something that somebody from my Discord actually asked, and I kind of made it into my own idea, I guess. All right, let's see who said this. So a couple of days ago, I asked for suggestions on my help desk training videos, basically ideas for tickets or issues that I can work on or talk about, because I really need more ideas, guys. I have over 420 videos or something like that, so chances are I've covered majority of topics. So I'm always open for those, and please don't forget to let me know if you have any ideas or anything that you want me to talk about, whether it's in the comments section below this video or on Discord. If you want to join my Discord, there is a link in the description. So the idea I got for the other one, for the printer ticket, is from Mr. Rookie Bob. So Bob said, is there a way to tell if device drivers are installed correctly short of a device manager? And he said, had an old machine that I've reinstalled and is network wouldn't connect via Ethernet, and device manager said the driver was up to date. Had to manually download from the site and install before it started working. So basically what's going on here, he's saying that everything looked fine in the device manager when it comes to the Ethernet adapter that he had installed, and let me show you how that looks like. So if I go to the device manager and look at the device manager, and in this case what was happening under the Ethernet, everything looked fine, but yet Ethernet did not work. By the way, thank you very much, Bob, for basically giving me that suggestion, which I kind of made into a printer issue. But I will talk about specifically what you mentioned. So he said network adapter looked fine. So in this case, for example, we have Intel R Ethernet connection adapter, and that's the physical one. The other ones here is for the virtual box and one for Hyper-V. So they're virtual adapters that are tunneled to the Intel R Ethernet, which is the physical one. So what he's talking about, that it looked normal, everything looked normal. There are no issues in device manager. What usually happens is when you have an error, when driver didn't install properly or something doesn't install at all, in device manager, usually on the bottom here, there would be a list of things with exclamation marks on them. In his case, it looked fine, but it still didn't work. So if you look at it, properties, everything looked fine. It says device started working properly, this and that. But it didn't start working until he actually went to the website for the specific hardware that he has and installed that specific driver. And this can happen when Windows operating system installs generic drivers, and it used to be worse before, and you can see here he mentioned it's an older machine, so chances are it's an older operating system as well. It has gotten better with Windows 10, operating system, because of that whole plug and play thing gotten better, although they started suggesting that I think in Windows XP times, maybe even earlier, maybe Windows 2000 or something like that. Basically what I had to tell him is there's no easy way to tell aside from assuming that the wrong driver is installed. So yeah, if it doesn't work and it looks normal in the device manager, then chances are you have to go and actually download or update that driver specifically for that specific piece of hardware, whether it's Ethernet adapter, a graphics card, sound card, or anything like that. And then I said, I've noticed Windows OS likes to install generic drivers that sometimes do not work even though looks normal in device manager. So that goes back to me saying or talking about generic drivers or basic drivers that they use. I guess generic would be more a technical term. And this usually is especially true with older hardware, but it has gotten way better with Windows 10. Okay, now let's segue into this So yeah, basically to just kind of wrap this up, you would update your driver or install this driver package specifically for your computer model, or this and that. Okay, now let's hit the printer ticket because it's kind of in relation to that. Again, make sure you assign to this to yourself when you're working these tickets. This is a Jira ticketing system. And if you want to know or learn how to use this ticketing system, I have a specific video on how to use a ticketing system. In this case, we are just troubleshooting things. This ticket says here, my printer is not working. And it says, I'm trying to highlight it from the beginning. I've installed, whatever, I'm just going to highlight the whole thing. I've installed the printer this morning and there are no driver errors, but still not working. Please help me. Debbie. So Debbie says here she installed the printer and there are no driver errors. So just like we looked at it before, she would install it, and let's go to, I almost went back to the device manager, but we actually need printers and scanners, which shows our printers that are installed. And this is how it looks like in Windows 10. It looks different, and there's a way to actually see them listed differently in older operating systems. But in this tutorial, we're actually just going to do it the way Windows 10 wants us to do it, right? So here we are, printers and scanners, and here's a printer that's installed here. So we're going to look at it as in like, okay, well, it looks fine, looks like it's installed. There are no exclamation marks, or I should say there are no errors, there are no big red X's or anything like that. It looks normal. And this is exactly what it's going on with user's computer as well. She installed the printer and it looks fine. However, sometimes printers can also be set to use generic drivers. So let's look at how we can actually adjust this. So she, chances are, just installed the software package on her computer somehow, or through the means of whatever the company allows, and it looks fine, but yet it's still not installed. This can happen with printers that are, for example, printers that allow multiple drivers to be used, so including generic and the one specific to the printer itself. So a generic printer should work, printer driver should work, but then it also gives you an option to change it to the specific to that printer that you have. So I know this sounds confusing, but what happens is, for example, a large printer maker, what they would do, they would create a global print driver, for example, Xerox. And that global print driver will work, printer driver will work for a majority of the Xerox printers that are out there, or at least a group of them. Maybe not all of them, but at least a group of them. Aside from that, they have specific and different drivers, including drivers that support different functions of the printers, including secure print, meaning that you are, let's say you're working in an office and there are hundreds of people working there, and you decide to print something and everybody's printing on the same large Xerox printer, one of those big ones, big boxed ones that are like $10,000 or $20,000 printers, but you have to walk across the entire office floor to get to it. And then, of course, if it's a secure document, it's like some kind of sensitive information, let's say a contract of some sort, you don't want everybody just to see it. So you set up secure print, and then once you go there to the printer, you type in your code and you get your printout when you get there. Not doesn't print out and then you go over there and searching through all the other printouts, or maybe somebody takes it. You know what I mean? That's the point of having multiple drivers available for printers, right? So you can choose between different ones. In this case, we're just going to look at the basic thing that we can with this Canon one. Again, this is a Canon MP250. It's just a basic, fairly affordable printer that you can use at home. I don't have access, since I'm working from home at the moment, I don't have access to the large Xerox one to show you different drivers that are available, but maybe if we're on luck, we can find something here that's similar. So you would usually go to something like advanced and select a printer driver like so. You can see here that under printer properties, it gives me an option, if available, to select a different driver or even install a new one. In this case, it's grayed out, unfortunately, because this printer is literally has a specific printer. It's not a Xerox $20,000 printer, guys. You know what I mean? But at least I am able to show you where you can do so. So unlike example of the Ethernet adapter that Bob, is it Bob? Yes, Bob, that Bob mentioned. In his case, he literally has to use a specific one, and the generic printer in that case, it looked like it was normal, but it wasn't. However, when it comes to printers, you can have and expect to see different printer drivers that you literally select. And it's very simple. Once you install it, if it's not available there, you simply use this drop down and select the one that that might work. And sometimes you may have to actually experiment with that. So make sure that you select the one and select the one that is literally what customer wants. So if Debbie here wants to use a secure printer features, she may have to select a specific driver that allows for that. If Debbie wants to print in color, she may have to use a specific driver for that. Very important to know when it comes to dealing with printer stuff like this. Okay, so I guess I'm going to reply to her, and you know what, in this case I would actually call her and ask her all this information, because it's not very simple, and I hope it's simple to understand. I hope it came across as simple to understand to you guys, because there really isn't necessarily a simple way of explaining it. But I would talk to her on the phone and ask her, Debbie, what kind of printer, well, what are you going to use the printer for, basically? And then she would tell me, and then based off of that, I would set up her printer drivers, and then we would call it that. So I guess since I'm talking to her, I don't have to reply to her. So for that, I'm just going to add internal note and say configured printer as requested by user/customer Irvin. Save, and then I'm going to complete it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please take one moment to like it. I appreciate it. I know I already said it, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. All right, let's look at one more, and that should make for a nice session, nice training session for us, guys. Here we are again. If you watch my other videos, we have again Mike Moser. Mike Moser's got a lot of problems with his computers. He's always putting in tickets. Anyways, here we go. I am getting computer errors and PC reboots, and it says, this morning I am unable to use programs and computer restarts. I had to reboot 4 times. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And it says, I work from home, so please call me. So in this case, I would call Mike. And of course, just to touch on this, Debbie, I would ask Debbie if she was like on Instant Messenger. I would ask her, hey, can I call you? But in this case, Mike specifically said that I can just call him. So I'm going to call Mike. So I'm going to call Mike and ask him exactly what is going on. So chances are that everything is okay. He says here, I had to reboot 4 times. So chances are that everything is okay at this time. But of course, we would double check this with customer/user. But the fact that he's working from home and that he had to reboot 4 times, and then he said that he says I am unable to use programs and computer restarts, to me right away, my intuition, my experience tells me that one, he's unable to use programs because chances are maybe he is not connected to the VPN first, and then he's trying to open these programs that require external connection or external access from his home connection. And then we got computer restart, so maybe he is turning off his computer whenever he's done using it, so it's not able to install updates or anything like that. So I would make sure that he indeed is keeping the computer turned on while after he uses it, because updates come overnight usually. And then I would see which programs are unable to connect. And if he's telling me that he is trying to use these programs before he connects to VPN, then chances are he's not doing it right. So this might be a training issue. Of course, get on the computer and see if there are any issues. But chances are, if he says everything is fine, then what can you do? I specifically created this ticket so that way I can show you an example of something that you have to do as PC support, and that is training. Sometimes you have to train people on how to use computers properly. So what I'm going to do, and I'm talking to the customer, but I'm just going to type here what I'm going to tell him. I'm going to say, okay, good morning. And then I'm going to ask him, do you turn off your computer at the end of shift, or meaning at the end of day, once he's done working, or do you keep it on? And then if he says, I turn it off or shut down, then I would say, please, I'll scroll up a little bit, please ensure, please, I'm going to say this, I'm going to be nice, because I don't want to be, I don't know who Mike is. If Mike is a manager, I don't want to talk to him like he's lesser than me. So if I say, please ensure that, then he may not take this as in like, he may not actually do it, you know what I mean? Please leave computer on after work so that it can get updates. This will minimize reboots. I'm going to say restarts because he said restarts, and will allow for faster login. Okay, so especially true when you're working from home, you want to make sure that user knows that it's best to leave the computer on. And if they're like, well, yeah, it's using too much power and this and that, I'm just going to say, well, it actually uses very little power when it's not being used. And we're going to say that as well. But the point is, we want to make sure that the computer gets all of its updates first. So if he rebooted 4 times, chances are that at least 2 of those times, or let's say at least 1 or 2 times, that the computer was just wanting to reboot, no matter what, whether he did it manually or not, whether he rebooted on his own to resolve issues or anything like that, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that the computer reboots during after business hours when he's not using it. And then if he says, well, when I rebooted, it took forever and this, that, well, that's because maybe it was getting updates, or the computer is slow, but chances are it was just getting updates. And then I would also say, just to make them feel better off, because some people are, for the lack of better words, anal. They really want to do things their own way because this or that. If some people think that the computer is using a lot of electricity, they may not want to keep the computer, turned on when they're not using it. And I'm going to say, computer uses very little power when not in use. It's kind of wordy what I said there, but it gets the point across. And then I'm going to say it uses around 8 watts compared to a light bulb, which is around 60 W's. So this kind of puts them at ease. They leave the computer on because 8 watts is just very, very little. And I compare it to something they can understand, because a lot of people don't understand what watts are. What are watts? And what is that? But if I compare it to a light bulb, a standard light bulb, they're going to say, well, 8 watts is really nothing, which is completely true. I actually have a power meter that's plugged into my wall, and my custom made computer that has a lot more stuff than these computers that are from company, like these basic small form factor computers. It still only use around 8 to 10 watts on just idle, with monitor turned off. Monitor itself can use some power as well. Okay, and then I'm going to say, so let's assume Mike said, okay, no problem. You know what I mean? And then I can say, to kind of minimize what he was talking about here, where it says I am unable to use programs, chances are that he didn't log into VPN first and then things happened or things didn't work. So I'm going to say a good way to ensure programs work properly when working from home is to log in this order. So I'm going to give him a basic instructions on the safe way to log in when working from home. So I would say log in to VPN first, then your IP phone, because he's working from home, so chances are he's using IP phone, and then everything else. This will ensure well, I don't want to say safe, but I'm going to say, let's make it a little fancy. Proactive. Let's see. This will ensure proactive workday. How is that? This will ensure a proactive workday. So that should help and give basic instructions, because we always want to log into VPN first. Everything else that requires connections, like an IP phone or anything else, will depend heavily on VPN being logged in first. Because chances are when people log into a computer, they start to log into everything at once. Some companies even have software that automatically logs you into like 20 different systems. And sometimes that stuff even starts to execute upon login to computer, because it's set up to do so while you're at the office, while you're physically connected to the network, and it can do that. You would imagine you log into your computer, you lock your computer, you log into it, and then suddenly things start to execute. That's the automatic login system that they have in place. And when you're on VPN, none of that stuff is going to work. Or I'm sorry, when you're working from home, none of that stuff is going to work. You have to get on VPN first, and then it's going to work. So, it's kind of a touchy type of thing that you have to kind of be nice about when it comes to explaining. Otherwise, Mike is going to come back to me and say, things are not working again the next day. So we have to make sure that that's minimized and that that's not happening. But if we provide training, especially if it's somebody, let's say Mike already had an issue yesterday, and then you already helped them, and here he is, Mike, contacting you again. We want to make sure that, he knows how to do things properly so that he can minimize issues that are happening there. All right, guys, I hope you like this video. Please let me know if you have any further ideas. You can let me know in the comments below, or you can join Discord and just, let me know or say hi. All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.